Hey guys, this is James.
And this is Denny from TeaDB, bringing you guys episode 54.
Yep, and today we are reviewing another green tea, but this one's kind of a special one. It's from Japan. It's Gyokuro, which is a shade-grown green tea.
Right.
And it tends to be very premium, so we're going to use a lot of leaf and a really low temperature, as is kind of like customary to Gyokuro.
Very cool. So, talk about low. Why don't you go ahead and start prepping the water there?
Yes, we got to get this water temperature real low, so we're going to start to let it cool down.
Yeah, so as you'll see in a second, James actually has a thermometer that he'll use to measure the heat of the water. And this particular tea is very sensitive, more so even than a normal sencha would be, to the heat and time of steeping. And it's largely a factor of the quality of the tea, largely also a factor of the quantity of the tea. So James is using how many grams?
So we're using 8 grams of tea leaves for about 4 ounces of water. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So that's pretty high. That's much higher,
Especially for a green tea.
that you would use than, for instance, a sencha,
Mm-hmm.
or definitely a Chinese green tea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so right now the water temperature is 150 degrees. We gotta wait for it to get down to 130 degrees. So let's just keep talking.
Yeah. So we're of the mindset, I think, that as you folks probably know from watching TeaDB, that tea is a experimental experience, and very much is the case that if you're just starting out in tea, you might want to use some tricycle wheels. What are those called?
Training wheels.
Training wheels.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been a long time.
I still use mine.
So this can be a training wheel, and so can a scale, and even a measuring amount for measuring the amount of water you're using, for instance.
Yep.
And so when you're getting familiar with a new type of tea or a new brewing style or a new region, it's I think it's just an easy way of using these tools and getting that sort of intuitive feel for what does tea taste like when it's prepared correctly in this method, and then also sort of getting that intuitive feel of just the pacing of the ritual of creating the tea.
Yep.
And those things itself are going to let you eventually become very natural with brewing something even as high premium quality as this.
Yep. And after you get super familiar with them, you can kind of phase them out
Yeah.
and then make delicious tea just with your mind.
And always good to check in too. It's always interesting, I think.
Yeah.
As probably you've known, James. I've gone back and re-measured how much tea I'm using for Baozong or something like that, or Oriental Beauty, for instance, maybe. And I'm surprised myself that I've increased the amount of tea leaves that I use dramatically. But I might decrease the amount of the heat of the water, for instance. So it's also good to just check in and sort of see how you're actually brewing tea as well, using the tools and measuring
Absolutely. And if there is one tea genre where it's pretty acceptable to be using things like this, like thermometers and scales, it's Gyokuro and Japanese teas in general.
Yeah, Japanese green teas.
Because they are very, very... it's challenging to brew them, and a little bit of difference can make a big difference in the output.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And it makes me think that the ceremonial aspect of the Japanese tea ceremony, not only is it sort of a beautiful demonstration, exhibition of and appreciation of a good thing, tea, but it's also in some sense kind of necessary to actually produce, given how finicky Japanese green teas can be, to produce a really tasty cup of tea.
Yeah, it does make some sense and consistency, just the rigidity of kind of like their tea ceremony and stuff. Yeah.
So let's talk about the proportions here. How much water are we going to use? How much tea are we going to use?
Yep, so 8 grams of tea, 4 ounces of water, 2-to-1. I've heard of people using as much as 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 for Gyokuro, which is crazy. I tried to use 3.5-to-1 and at like 110 degrees or something, and it was weird.
There's different... So people that brew matcha can brew thick and thin matcha, and I can't remember the Japanese words for it, but if you brew a thick matcha, it's like not paste anymore, but it is a kick in the face.
Yeah.
So I can imagine.
As we talked about it, matcha is the Red Bull of tea. The classy Red Bull.
It's so true. Although, I don't know why, but as we have a beautiful day here in April in Seattle, and for some reason, sunny days, I just want to go home right after work. If it's still light out, it's still nice out, and just whip up some matcha and drink a cup of matcha outside and read a book. I don't know why. It's my favorite thing ever. So.
That sounds pretty great to me.
Yeah,
so
it's nice.
I won't fault you.
How we doing?
We are getting there.
Okay.
We are at 138, so we got to wait for 7 or 8 more degrees.
Cool.
And then we'll be...
And this high-tech piece of instrumentation right here is literally a meat thermometer.
Yeah, exactly. It tells me what temperature I need to be brewing my poultry at.
So, and I guess, James, you had tried actually getting a laser thermometer, which is a cool sounding device, but when it comes to measuring the heat of liquids, especially boiling liquids,
it's
not necessarily
It's not as good because it ends up getting the temperature at the surface level of the water, which is very different than the temperature like in the middle of the water, for instance. So.
Yeah, or even the vapor coming off, which could be a different temperature as well. Depending.
Yeah, for sure. So be good for stuff like ovens and stuff like that. Not so good for tea temperatures.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay. And how did you get introduced to this tea? Curious.
I saw it on the internet. I saw it was expensive, and I was curious. And those are all true facts about Gyokuro.
Yeah. Hey, so that's a legitimate way to find some tea.
So I'd actually had issues with this tea before. I'd bought a couple smaller batches of it, a little bit inferior quality to this one, which is the Yame Gyokuro from Ocha.
Okay.
And I hadn't used like a thermometer and stuff like that, and so I really decided with this batch of very expensive, it's expensive Gyokuro, especially when you're using this much leaf, to just really make sure I nailed it right on with temperature, with leaf to water ratio. So I did my research, bought one of these guys, which is definitely worth it for anyone getting started with Gyokuro or even sencha, for instance.
Okay.
And that's how we are here today.
Cool.
And we are very close.
Okay.
So we are also going to be using a timing device, an iPhone.
Yep. So these things are great. They do everything, including toast your homework. But we'll just use the simple 2-minute timer here. We're going to go for 90 seconds.
Yeah, we'll get a quick
smell.
sniff.
Verdant, grassy, fresh.
Yeah.
Very excited to try this. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer.
And this, kind of like your senchas, is going to have like a very nice kind of like umami taste. Like Japanese green teas in particular are some of the best places to kind of like get that profile.
Absolutely. And so, fantastic. Now, having had some experience with this tea, James, are there differences in brewing parameters for the first brew versus the second brew versus the third brew?
Definitely.
Longevity, let's talk about that a little bit. We have a couple minutes.
So I'm actually going to start the water for the next brew because I don't want to wait forever.
Okay.
But yeah, there are differences. So what's going to happen with the first brew is the leaves are going to absorb a lot of that water.
Right.
So you're going to get a lot less liquid out than you poured in. And the subsequent brews, you're going to get almost the same amount of liquid out that you brewed in. And it's even more amplified for Gyokuro. Part of that is just because we're using simply more tea leaves. 8 grams of tea leaves absorbs quite a bit of water. Yeah. So we're going to then go put our steep time to almost no time and then slowly increase it as well as the temperature if you were to brew it out. And really high quality Gyokuros you could brew out 6-7 times. Wow. The last ones would be at boiling or something close to that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Cool. All right, we're coming really close to 1:30 here.
All right.
We got 5 more seconds, so.
All right, let's do it.
Perfect. I'm excited. We rarely get this scientific on TeaDB, so it's a good thing. Cancel this.
Yep.
Beautiful. Oh, the aroma is intense. Yeah, and you can tell the saturation of the liquid liqueur itself is not super high. It's not super saturated in color yet.
Yep.
I think that's largely related to the heat.
Yep. All right. Cheers.
It is so intense. Oh my goodness. Really salty. You get that oceanic sort of seafoody beach tastes. And I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely seaweed, actually.
Yeah, seaweed. Yeah, that's a good point out. I feel like Gyokuro also has that umami taste, kind of like we talked about, pretty strongly.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Savory, and that sort of is another way of describing umami. Just sort of a funny term. Yeah, really pleasant. It's so cool that it's almost too cool. It's just right. I couldn't imagine drinking this a minute later than we are right now.
Yeah, it's 130 degrees for people that normally drink Chinese tea at boiling. Is pretty cool. It feels like I forgot about my teacup and I'm just coming back. But it's quite delicious.
It's so good. It's so flavorful. Which just goes to show that it's not necessarily about the heat that's going to extract the flavors itself. It's the quality of the tea, the amount of tea you use, the heat, all of it combined. Wonderfully balanced, extremely intense on the front. It has a really nice finish and really strong lasting taste.
Aftertaste, definitely.
Wonderful in that way. So this is something where you have a cup and then you kind of wait and meditate on it in some sense. Yeah,
because you kind of have to. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess you kind of do.
So we're at 140 degrees, so we're getting close, guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so, so this next steeping that we'll do, we're just because the leaves themselves have absorbed all the liquid. We don't need to be infusing them with actual water at this point. They're already kind of primed and ready to go, and then you're literally just gonna do a flash brew this time.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, it's a very. I feel like Gyokuro is kind of like one of the most exaggerated green tea brewing methods because of just kind of the absorption of water and stuff like that, as compared to sencha or Chinese green teas.
Okay, so. How are we doing on temperature for the second steeping here?
We are very close. In fact, we're so close that the Chinese brewer in me wants to just brew it. I just want to brew it right now. So we're gonna.
Okay, cool. Actually, I guess I don't need the timer at this point.
Yeah. So this is just a flash brew, and this will probably be the last brew for this episode.
Cool. And also just the tea leaves themselves, gorgeous. It is the deepest forest green. I feel like looking in there is looking inside of the Pacific Northwest rainforest in the winter. It is dark and green.
Yep, and so we're getting a much greener brew this time.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's very interesting to me, and because it's the same temperature, it's fascinating.
Same temperature, less time, and it just has to do with like the way that the leaves kind of have absorbed a lot of that.
Yeah, so cool. Fun, always learning new stuff. And there's a little bit of sediment at the bottom here, a little bit of the fine particulate.
Yep.
That's totally fine, not at all an issue, so expect that.
And if you were a Japanese tea head, which there are definitely some, we are not, you would be having a special pot for Gyokuro that would be able to capture a lot of that and prevent that from getting out into your cup.
Yeah.
But this is just a small teapot that I use for when I want to brew less Japanese tea.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Gosh. So it's even stronger.
I know.
And intense umami flavors. Both brews actually teased a little bit on the bitterness. So you kind of gotta like that if you're going after some of these teas and want to really push the brewing parameters.
Yeah.
But I find it to be very pleasant.
I agree. It's absolutely, they're just at the front end of the teasing of bitterness. You can tell it's about to happen, but it doesn't, which is kind of lovely. It creates a complexity of the mouthfeel. In terms of the flavor of this, it still has that deep, salty, earthy, savory taste to it. I actually got more of a grassy aroma off of it like you would a traditional Japanese green tea. especially just at the very start before we actually started brewing. And I'm surprised at the difference in the taste. And it's lovely. It's I'm curious, James, to hear from you. This doesn't strike me personally as one that I would have it for a daily drinker myself.
Oh no, I don't think so.
It's a very specific profile of taste.
Mm-hmm.
But in what context would you enjoy this kind of a tea?
It'd have to be. I don't drink green teas regularly, so especially a premium one like this, it'd be kind of like a big treat. They kind of stress me out just to have around, just because I feel like I got to drink them, and then I end up drinking more or less Japanese green tea than I actually really want to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'd have to be kind of a. I'd buy this. Kind of for a specific season where I want to be drinking it a few times a week, and then I'd go through like a pack of 50 or 100 grams probably in 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. That'd probably be how it worked for me.
Yeah. But freshness is key for this tea, for
absolutely. Sure. Either that or buy a 100-gram pack and split it with someone, something like that, just so you're able to go through it.
Yeah, keep it in your fridge to keep it more fresh. For me personally, I would enjoy something like this with folks who I think are maybe more comfortable with stranger flavors, stranger foods, are interested in sort of adventurous eating, adventurous drinking. This isn't something that I think the average person would probably find to be delicious.
Especially in the West.
Interestingly enough, yeah.
The umami profile is very...
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really unexplored out there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that this is, in that sense, not only is this a beautiful, delicious tea, but it's a little bit of an adventurous tea. So I'd encourage you, if you go out there, to, when you do try this, invite some friends who you think would be maybe interested in something a little bit more unique.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Anyways, where can someone find out more about tea?
Well, TeaDB.org is a great resource. Go ahead and check us out. Please, if you guys like our videos, we release them every Tuesday. We review all sorts of different teas. We have a couple that are sort of how-tos, very just kind of basic about tea information. So check us out, TeaDB.org. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yeah, James is updating our Twitter constantly, so up on Twitter. Frequently enough.
Follow us, subscribe.
And I guess we just heard that we'll actually be doing a tea tasting at the Northwest Tea Festival coming up in only October. So it's quite a ways away, but
yeah, so mark it on your calendars, guys. I don't even know what day it is, but you should put it there.
And so you guys can also meet us there if you want. We are in Seattle, so feel free to reach out to us as well.
Yep. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.
Cheers, guys.